I, female, 23, am having issues with my mom's female, 46, new boyfriend, male, 51, who moved in and is now policing what I wear in my own home. Okay, so I'm not even sure where to begin with this. I moved back home with my mom about 10 months ago after finishing my psych degree. Not exactly my dream scenario, but with student loans and the absolutely garbage entry-level pay in my field, I couldn't afford my own place while trying to save something for grad school. I mean, I found a decent job at a local mental health clinic, but the pay barely covers my loans and basic expenses. Some background, I guess. My mom has been divorced from my dad for almost 7 years now. He had an affair with someone at work, and it completely destroyed her. She went through this really bad depression afterwards. Like, really bad. I was away at college, but would come home sometimes, and she'd literally be in the same pajamas from when I left the previous weekend. It was pretty scary, to be honest. So anyway, about 6 months ago, she started dating this guy, Doug, male, 51, who she met through some friend at her accounting firm. And honestly, at first, I was actually happy for her. She seemed excited about dating again after years of being alone. He was bringing her flowers and taking her on weekend trips and stuff. She was finally smiling again and seemed like her old self. Then after literally 4 months of dating, she announces that Doug is moving in because his lease is ending and it makes financial sense. I thought it was crazy fast, but didn't say anything because, I don't know, I hadn't seen my mom this happy in forever and didn't want to be the one to ruin it. Plus, I'm technically an adult living in her house, though I do pay rent. The first few weeks were fine, I guess. But then Doug started making these weird comments about what I wear around the house. Like one day it was super hot. Our AC is ancient and barely works in the upstairs bedrooms, and I came downstairs in running shorts and a tank top. Doug looked me up and down in this really uncomfortable way and asked if I was going out dressed like that in a judgy voice. When I told him I was just going for a run, he said my shorts left nothing to the imagination. My mom quickly changed the subject, but it was so awkward. I felt gross, but tried to just ignore it. Later that same day, my mom came to my room and suggested I might want to dress more modestly around the house. I was like, seriously, you're taking his side on what I wear in my home. Well, technically her home, but I've lived here most of my life, so it feels like mine too. This has gotten worse over the past couple months. Doug has now created actual house rules about appropriate attire that somehow only apply to me. I pay rent and do my share of chores, but suddenly I'm being treated like I'm 15, not 23. I should probably mention my mom has always been kind of a people pleaser. When I was growing up, she would always take my dad's side during arguments, even when he was clearly wrong, just to keep the peace. She basically can't handle conflict at all. She got even worse after the divorce, like she's terrified of being alone again or something. Last week things got worse. I had done laundry before work and left it in the dryer since I was running late. When I got home, I found my clothes in 2 piles on the laundry room counter. One normal pile, and then a separate pile with my bodycon dress, some crop tops, and a few other things. Doug had left a literal note saying these clothes were inappropriate and shouldn't be worn in his house. I was furious, like my hands were literally shaking. I confronted him while he was watching TV. When I asked if he went through my laundry and left the note, he claimed he was just trying to establish some standards. I reminded him that I pay rent and I'm an adult, but he scoffed and said the amount I pay is symbolic at best. My mom walked in and asked what was going on. I explained the situation, expecting her to back me up, but Doug told my mom my wardrobe was disrespectful. My mom weakly suggested we could all compromise, in that voice she always uses when she's afraid of conflict. I felt completely betrayed and probably looked it. Doug told me that most people my age don't live with their parents, and if I want to dress however I want, maybe it's time to get my own place. I looked at my mom, and she just looked down and said nothing. I just don't know what to do. I'm not financially ready to move out yet. Trust me, I've looked at apartments, and it's impossible with my current salary unless I want to live somewhere sketchy or with like 4 roommates. But I feel so uncomfortable in what's supposed to be my home too. I've been staying with friends more often and basically avoiding the house when Doug is there. Am I overreacting? Is he being inappropriate, or am I just being entitled since it's technically their house now? I mean, I know I'm not always the easiest person to live with, but this feels different. Like who goes through someone else's laundry and sorts out the inappropriate items? My brother James, male, 28, lives across the country and hasn't even met Doug yet. When I called him about this, he basically said I should just ignore him and save money, rather than make a big deal. Easy for him to say when he's not the one being policed about his clothing. Plus, he's a guy, so nobody cares what he wears anyway. I know some people might think I should just move out if I don't like the rules, but the housing market here is insane, and my salary is a joke. I was planning to stay here for another year, to save up enough for my own place, and maybe start grad school. Now I feel like a prisoner in my own home. And the worst part is my mom just stands there and lets it happen. I feel like I'm going crazy. Like, is it normal for your mom's boyfriend of 6 months to dictate what a grown woman wears? Would it be different if I was paying more rent? I just don't understand why my mom won't stand up for me. Edit. Just to clarify, since some are asking, yes, I have tried talking to my mom alone about this. She just says things like, Doug is old-fashioned and he means well and it's his house too now. She basically turns into this completely different person around him, and it's freaking me out a little. Edit 2. To answer everyone asking why I don't just wear what I want anyway, I've tried. He makes these passive-aggressive comments all day when I do. Or he'll tell my mom, who then comes to talk to me about it. It's exhausting. And no, moving in with friends isn't an option right now. Most of my friends have roommates already or live with partners. Now for the first update. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who commented on my last post. I honestly wasn't expecting that many responses, and I read every single one. So after that whole laundry incident I told you guys about, I started paying more attention to Doug's behavior and noticed some stuff that I probably missed earlier because I was too focused on the clothing thing. Doug is really secretive about his phone. He takes calls in the garage or goes outside to the backyard, even when it's raining, which happened last week and I thought was weird. And he never leaves his phone unattended. If he goes to the bathroom, the phone goes with him. If he's cooking, the phone is in his pocket. And a few days ago, I walked into the kitchen and caught him turning his screen off and flipping his phone over when he saw me. Who does that unless they're hiding something? And it's not just the clothes thing anymore. He's now commenting on when I come home at night, I'm 23, asking weird questions about my friends, and even making comments about what food I eat. Last week, I bought some yogurt that was on sale, and he made a big deal about how we need to be more economical with groceries, even though I buy my own food with my own money. I just looked at him and said, I paid for this, and he got all weird and left the room. Another thing that's been bothering me is that we've never met any of his friends or family. Not once in the entire time my mom's been dating him. He claims his parents are dead and that his siblings live on the West Coast and they aren't close. But no friends either. No coworkers he hangs out with, no Christmas cards, no phone calls from literally anyone besides my mom. It's weird, right? Or am I overthinking? So last week my mom was working late. She's been picking up extra hours at the accounting firm, which makes me wonder if Doug is pressuring her for money. And Doug mentioned he needed to go to his storage unit to get some documents. And I know this is going to sound bad, but once he left, I decided to look around his stuff in the spare room where he keeps his desk. I know snooping is wrong, but I just had this feeling something was off. Am I crazy for feeling like I'm living with a stranger who's taking over our house? So I looked through his desk drawers at first and didn't find anything weird, just normal office stuff. But then I noticed this locked cabinet underneath. I remembered seeing Doug hide a key in this fake book on the shelf, so I found the key and opened it and, guys, there were a bunch of unopened bills addressed to Douglas and Cheryl Anderson. But Doug's last name is Matthews, at least that's what he told us. There were also recent bank statements showing regular transfers to someone named Cheryl. And the craziest part, I found this small photo album with pictures of Doug and some woman I've never seen before. And these weren't old photos from years ago. Some of them looked really recent, like vacation pictures from just a few months ago. I heard his car pull into the driveway, so I quickly put everything back exactly how I found it and got out of there. After that, I did some Googling and found this woman, Cheryl Anderson, on Facebook, who appears to still be married to Doug. Her profile still says, married to Douglas Anderson. And while there aren't any recent public photos of them together, There's nothing indicating they're separated or divorced either. But wait, it gets worse. A couple days later, I was using my mom's iPad to look up a recipe, mine was charging, and I noticed notifications from Doug's email popping up. Apparently, he used her iPad at some point and never logged out of his account. I know what you're thinking, and yes, I looked. I'm not proud of it, but I had to know what was going on. He's been regularly emailing someone saved in his contacts as just C, Cheryl, I'm assuming. And the emails were, let's just say they made it very clear they're still in an intimate relationship. There were plans for meetups during his supposed business trips, and references to their physical relationship that I really wish I could unsee. I also found old emails to my mom from when they first started dating, where he told her he'd been divorced for 2 years. So he's been lying this whole time. I don't know what to do. My mom seems happier than she's been in years. She's always saying how Doug is so much more supportive than my dad was. And I keep thinking about what happened when she found out about my dad's affair. She completely fell apart, like couldn't get out of bed for weeks, wouldn't eat. It was really scary. I don't want to be the one to cause that kind of pain again. But also, she deserves to know who she's actually living with. I talked to my friend Monica about it, and she thinks I need more evidence before I say anything to my mom. She pointed out that my mom might not believe me since I've been openly against Doug from the beginning, and she might think I'm just trying to break them up. Plus, she might be mad that I was snooping through his stuff and his emails, which, fair point. Oh, and there was this awkward conversation with Doug yesterday. I was making dinner, and he came home early from work. He told me I'd been avoiding him lately, and I just said I've been busy with work, which is true, but also yes, I've been avoiding him because he creeps me out. Then he mentioned that my mom told him I was saving up to move out. I just said yeah, eventually, and kept it vague. Then he started saying he knows about some apartments that might be in my price range and kept emphasizing how young adults need their independence. It felt like he was trying to push me out. Then I tried to ask him how his business trip went last weekend. You should have seen his face. He looked totally caught off guard for a second before giving some vague answer about meetings and then quickly changed the subject and left the room. Super suspicious. I've decided I'm going to find out the truth about this guy, not just for my sake, but for my mom's. She deserves better than to be lied to and cheated on. His next business trip is this weekend, and I'm actually going to take a personal day from work to follow him and see where he actually goes. I know that sounds crazy, but I need to know what's going on. Is he seeing this Cheryl person? Is there someone else? I feel weird about invading his privacy, but my mom deserves to know the truth about who she's living with. Should I confront Doug directly with what I know, or should I wait until I have more evidence and then take everything to my mom? I'm really scared about how she'll react either way. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I've tried talking to my mom about my suspicions without mentioning the snooping. I have dropped some hints asking about Doug's past relationships and family, but she just repeats whatever he's told her. When I asked if she'd ever met any of his friends or family, she got defensive and said, "These things take time, and not everyone has a big social circle." Edit 2. To those suggesting I take pictures of the documents I found, I thought about it, but I'm worried about getting caught if I go back into his locked cabinet. And I don't have the technical know-how to screenshot forward the emails without him knowing, since they're on my mom's iPad, and I think it might notify him. I'm not great with tech stuff. Now for the second update. I caught my mom's boyfriend cheating with multiple women after following him on his business trip. So, a lot has happened since my last post about Doug. First off, thank you to everyone who commented on my previous posts. So I did end up following through with my plan to follow Doug on his so-called business trip last weekend. I took a personal day from work on Friday and waited in my car down the street until Doug left. I felt ridiculous. I kept thinking he would notice me, but honestly, he never even checked his rearview mirror once. Instead of heading to the airport like he told my mom, Doug drove to this fancy condo complex about 40 minutes away. I kept a few cars between us the whole time. When we got there, I parked across the street and watched as this woman came out to the parking lot, and Doug gave her this big passionate kiss right there in public. My stomach just dropped. Even though I already suspected he was cheating, actually seeing it was different, you know? They went inside together, and I just sat in my car for almost 2 hours trying to figure out what to do. I took some photos, but they weren't super clear since I was pretty far away. I debated just going home and showing my mom the pictures, but something told me I needed more concrete proof. Oh, and I was also dealing with work emails on my phone because, of course, my boss decided this was the perfect day to need something urgent finished. So I did probably the stupidest thing possible and decided to go right up to the condo and confront them. I know. So many of you warned me not to directly confront him, and you were right. But I wasn't thinking clearly, and I just wanted this whole thing to be over. I was literally shaking as I walked up to the door and rang the bell. This woman in her late 40s answered, looking confused. She was actually really pretty with this expensive-looking sweater and perfect hair. I asked if Doug Matthews was there. She hesitated for a second, then called out, "Douglas," without opening the door all the way. And then Doug appeared behind her, and his face when he saw me. He went completely pale. The woman asked who I was. Before Doug could say anything, I said, "I'm Martha's daughter." And she looked completely confused and was like, "Who's Martha?" Doug jumped in super quick and said something about Martha being a colleague and tried to physically move me back toward the hallway. But I was so angry at this point, I just blurted out, "Are you Cheryl?" And the woman goes, "No, I'm Erica." "Who's Cheryl?" You guys. Doug looked absolutely panicked and started saying stuff about this being just a misunderstanding. I could actually see sweat forming on his forehead. That's when I realized that Doug wasn't juggling 2 women. He was juggling 3. His legal wife, Cheryl, who he was supposedly separated from but still financially supporting, my mom, Martha, and this woman, Erica. Like, who has the energy for that many relationships? I can barely manage to text people back on time. I started telling Erica everything right there in the doorway, about how Doug was living with my mom and me, how he'd told my mom he was divorced, how I found documents showing he was still married to someone named Cheryl. Erica's face went from confusion to shock to anger in like 10 seconds flat. Turns out Erica had been dating Doug for over 2 years, which means their relationship actually started before he even met my mom. She thought he was divorced too and that he traveled a lot for work. I showed her pictures of Doug at our house that I had on my phone, and she just deflated. Then she got really angry and told Doug to get out of her condo. He tried to explain, but she wasn't having it. I left after that and drove home trying to figure out how to tell my mom. But when I got home, guess who had somehow beaten me there? Yup, Doug had called my mom and asked her to come home from work for an emergency discussion. I walked into the most tense scene ever. Doug was already spinning this whole story about how I was stalking him and creating drama because I didn't want him in our lives. My mom looked so confused and hurt, caught between believing her boyfriend and her daughter. It was horrible. My mom asked me why I followed Doug. I didn't even try to deny it. I just pulled out my phone and showed her the photos of Doug with Erica. Doug claimed Erica was just a friend. He was helping with a housing issue. Then I told my mom about the documents I found showing he was still married to Cheryl. Doug tried to claim the divorce was in process, but complicated. Then I mentioned the emails between him and C, which I'd actually taken screenshots of when I found them on my mom's iPad. Something I didn't mention in my last post because I was afraid of Doug finding them. Doug tried to grab my phone, but my mom stopped him and said she needed to see this in this super quiet voice I've literally never heard her use before. She read through the emails showing Doug's ongoing relationships with both women. Doug's excuses got more and more desperate and contradictory as she kept reading. Finally, my mom looked up at him and asked, super calmly, how many women he was currently involved with. Doug wouldn't answer directly, just kept saying things were complicated and we didn't understand. Then my mom said, in this quiet voice, "I think you should leave." You guys should have seen Doug's reaction. He tried everything. First, he got angry and started yelling about how I had invaded his privacy. When that didn't work, he switched to pleading, saying he loved my mom more than the others and was planning to end things with them. When that didn't work, he tried guilt-tripping her about how she was throwing away something special over a misunderstanding. But my mom didn't budge. She just kept repeating, "You need to leave," until finally she said she was calling the police if he didn't go. He finally left with just a suitcase of clothes, saying he'd be back for the rest of his stuff when things calmed down. After he left, my mom just collapsed. She broke down, crying harder than I've ever seen before. She kept alternating between apologizing to me and being absolutely furious at Doug and herself. We had this really intense conversation where she admitted she'd ignored all these red flags because she was so afraid of being alone after what happened with my dad. I didn't even know what to say to make it better. The next few days were wild. My mom found Cheryl's contact info in some of Doug's papers he left behind and actually reached out to her. Turns out, Doug had told Cheryl he was temporarily staying with a male friend while they worked on their marriage. My mom and Cheryl actually met for coffee and apparently really connected over their shared trauma. I didn't go with her, but my mom came back looking both drained and somehow relieved at the same time. Then Erica called my mom, and the three of them started comparing notes. They figured out Doug had been taking money from all of them. The rent he paid my mom was actually money Cheryl had given him for their joint bills, and he had borrowed investment money from Erica too. We learned from Erica that Doug has a pattern of targeting divorced or single women in their 40s and 50s. He finds vulnerable women, moves in quickly, and then starts taking their money while juggling multiple relationships at once. The three women filed police reports when they realized how much money he had taken under false pretenses. It's been about 2 weeks since the confrontation. Doug came back once with a police escort to get the rest of his stuff, but we haven't heard from him since. My mom heard through mutual friends that he moved to another city, probably to start his whole scam over again with new victims. The silver lining in all this mess is that my relationship with my mom has actually improved. She's apologized so many times for not supporting me against Doug's controlling behavior about my clothes and everything else. She started therapy to understand why she fell for Doug's manipulation and how she can build better boundaries. She's insisting I stay home and save money like we originally planned, with no dress code or stupid rules. She actually told me yesterday, "I should have trusted you from the beginning," which made me cry. I'd be lying if I said everything is perfect between us. I still have some resentment about how quickly she sided with Doug over me, but we're working on it. And honestly, seeing how devastated she was by Doug's betrayal made it hard to stay angry at her. She's been through enough. I've learned a lot from this whole experience about trusting my instincts and standing up for myself. I have mixed feelings about how everything turned out. I'm glad Doug is gone, but I worry about other women he might target. And while things are better with my mom, we still have a lot of healing to do. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this crazy situation. Your advice and encouragement really helped me find the courage to expose Doug for who he really was. The drama with him is over, but rebuilding our family is just beginning. Edit. A lot of people are asking if Doug is facing any legal consequences. The police reports were filed, but apparently it's really hard to prove fraud in these situations since he was in actual relationships with these women. They're all talking to lawyers about civil suits, but I don't know how that will turn out. The system kind of sucks for this type of situation. Edit 2. To those asking why I confronted Doug and Erica directly instead of just telling my mom first, I honestly don't know what I was thinking. In the moment, I just wanted concrete proof that couldn't be explained away. It was stupid and potentially dangerous, I know. Several of you have pointed out I could have been hurt if Doug had reacted violently, and you're right, I got lucky. Edit 3. For everyone telling me I'm brave, I don't feel brave. I feel like I should have figured this out sooner. There were so many red flags that seem obvious in hindsight, but thank you for the support. It means a lot right now.